I'd interested to sort of go into some of the results you were able to drive from, this initiative, which have been pretty impressive here, and maybe just to summarize what we've chatted about so far today. So, the key thing to drive improvement with data, first, we need to make sure we're capturing meaningful data, and meaningful data comes from various sources, whether or not it's your machines, your planning software, but, in many cases, the most critical information is that information from frontline operators, which not only enables us to get more meaningful data, but if we ask them those questions in a thoughtful way, it actually creates that engagement. So the second one is, to drive improvement, you need engagement. People need to care. People need to know, need to be aligned. So you need to create trust, need to create engagement. And finally, what you've been discussing again and again today is this concept of, driving improvement through collaboration and trust, which almost sits above, the tools you choose to use, whether or not it's technology or otherwise. And so I'd love to get, a sense of kind of some of the results you were able to drive, as well as, what does the future hold for you? Continuous improvement means continuous change, meaning that, what worked for you last week is not going to work long term. So what does the future hold for you and for the team at Renaissance?
Absolutely. Happy to jump into that. So I think, when we look at that line itself, I think that was the record-setting performance we've actually had on that has been pretty amazing. I think, it's been a direct result of that partnership with the operating team, the engineers, the mechanics, and everybody else that's been out there day in and day out. And the data itself just absolutely has provided a valuable level of insight into where we need to focus our efforts, because what often happens, and what I've seen is, as you follow the time series of the data that we've captured, the downtime or the bottleneck has shifted a little bit. And asking the questions using the data has been a pretty cool experience to say, okay, so I see it feels like the upstream portion is causing a little more issue now. And they'll say, you know what, you're right. It actually is. I'm seeing a lot of things here, and here. This is what it looks like. This is what we do. So again, that data lets us drive such a more meaningful discussion in that sense, but it's also allowed us to hit record-setting performance on some of our filling and packaging lines. And we're starting to really use that data to drive improve our maintenance practices, improve our preventive maintenance practices, and do some condition monitoring as well to understand where exactly we may have problems going forward. So if we see more of those minor stops, or if we see bigger buckets starting to develop in areas that they weren't before, we know we need to get a mechanic or get an engineer to look at that ASAP. The second part was what does the future look like? And I think it's incremental, right? I think I've talked about it before with you in some of the conversations that technology is very rarely truly revolutionary and often evolutionary. So as we look at this process, what we want to do is maintain the platform we have, maintain the good things we've got, and have those honest conversations about what's falling short. So what that means is we need more training. We need to help our operators know more about problem solving and get past the 5 whys that, understand fish bones and understand issue trees and things like that, and giving them the chance to learn the things that they might not have used but have the capability to do. And that's something that we really want to focus on just to keep them going. As we look, into the future as well, what we want to do is figure out how we can take what we've learned from Raven and expand that across the rest of our site. So define structures, the platform for engagement, the tool to kind of provide the lever to build these conversations, and then really start to use the data in a more real-time constructive fashion as well, from both our internally and then with our clients as well. And I think that's something that has been an unusual shock for me, is how powerful that the production data is for clients as well. So when they come on site, we'll have them sit here in a room, and as we talk them through what we're doing for the day, we can bring up the Raven screen and actually say, look, this is your line running your product at this moment that correlates with the video you're watching. This is your being in the room, essentially, without having to gown up and go into a grade B space as we do a grade A fill for an aseptic, product or something like that. And it's just been, for me, it's been, I wouldn't say fully transformative, but it's definitely set the groundwork for what we can do in that sense. And I think the tools themselves will allow us to really grow in a way that we didn't think I think was possible 5 years ago
here. I think you highlighted an interesting point, is, sort of earlier describing how, you had, I think you used the word Sisyphusian, but the idea that, we were basically burdening our front lines with this data burden that was, limiting their capability or their capacity to drive improvement. And I think you highlighted the opportunities now that have come up to provide additional training. So we have a massive amount of problem-solving capability on the front lines that can be unlocked by removing these data burdens and also empowering them and providing them skills to be even more effective at finding and solving problems. So I think from a, personally, why I'm most excited about that eighth waste and the ability to unlock the capacity and the potential of operators in the front lines by removing, helping direct organizations to work on their biggest problems, but also removing some of these data burdens that is this data burden that's slowing them down and frankly frustrating them. So it's exciting to hear that you sort of are on that path, and it'd be interesting to see how technology evolves, and how we continue to find ways to drive continuous improvement, which is by nature continuous.